Good evening, everyone. We will begin with the Chaucer age, but before that, I would talk about a little bit of history to remind of the things that you already know. Some of you, I guess. So I hope my screen is visible and I am loud and clear to you. So yes, so we have seen that first of all we have Anglo section age. Okay, followed by Anglo-Norman age. It is afterwards of this Anglo-Norman age that you will find the arrival of Chaucer and his work. So when we talk about Chaucer, few of the other writers are also important. They are not frequently asked, especially in the contemporary times, in the new syllabus, the way they have changed things, modified things. But earlier, those questions used to come in the examination way before 2018 or somewhat about that. So we know that Battle of Hastings, which took place in 1066, officially ends the Anglo section age and gave rise and way to the Anglo Norman period. Okay. Henry the Second became the king, grandson of Henry the First in 1154. Now, anything related to Henry the Second is important because it was Henry the Second who actually gave the instruction to his knights to kill Thomas Becket. And we know that Thomas Becket is an important figure, especially because of the Canterbury Tales that we read. So it was Henry the Second, grandson of Henry the First. He gave the. I mean, he was like you. If you have read the play written by T.S. Eliot, Murder in a Cathedral, so he vehemently he said to his knight out of disgust that I want to get rid of this Thomas Becket, and they killed him, taking that as a command. So Thomas Becket was martyred. He was killed after years of conflict with Henry over jurisdiction of church and state because Henry II wanted to take control of the church, which Thomas Becket denied because earlier Henry and Thomas Becket, both of them were good friends. So Henry thought that I can use Becket as a mere puppet, but he was not able to do so. Later on, Thomas Becket was canonized in 1173. That's how the Canterbury becomes a kind of place of pilgrim because he was Thomas Becket achieved martyrdom in 1170 there in that Canterbury Cathedral. Okay, this is what you will see as a prime story. I mean, there is a frame narrative story within a story. The prime story is that people are going to Canterbury pilgrim to see the shrine of Thomas Becket, to visit the shrine of Thomas Becket, and afterwards we will see story within a story that while they are traveling to the shrine of Thomas Becket, what happened in between, how they started to tell the stories. We are concerned with that also. So this was the historical background. Okay, then we have this Dominican Black Friars and Franciscan friars or Grey Friars in England. These are important segment or sector you can say in the Church of England because these people used to control church. Okay, they were the gatekeeper of church. Obviously they were corrupt. That's why Chaucer is actually ridiculing them in his Canterbury Tales. So these all Black Friars, Grey Friars, they were corrupt at the time. The reference, why I'm giving this reference, because when you will read Umberto Eco's novel, the name of the rose, you will find this. Okay, these references because that novel actually take you back to the medieval time, telling the story of the medieval time and kind of thing. So there you will find the reference of Black Friars, Grey Friars, Dominican and Franciscan friars. Then Edward the First become the son of Henry the Third. He became the king in 1272. He was a good king, also known as Lionheart. He was very good king. And then Edward the Second become the king in 1172. You know that Edward the Second, son of Edward the First, he was homosexual. Edward the Second was homosexual, and this you will see in the play of Marlowe, like Christopher Marlowe, Edward the Second, how he was killed by younger Mortimer along with the wife of Edward II itself. So, 1707, Edward II being become the king of England. Then Battle of Bannockburn took place in 1314. Great famine occurred in 1315 to 1317, in which many people died. Okay, Great Famine is also important incident. Also, the Black Death of 1348. You will find these references in history. So, Black Death of 1348, Peasant Revolt of 1381. These are all important incidents that shaped the history of that time as well as literature. So, Peasant Revolt was an important influence in the works of the fellow who wrote Pierce and Plowman. Okay, then the corruption of church was very important, and you will find their reference in the works of John Wycliffe, whose followers are known as Lollards. So John Gower, William Langland, John Wycliffe, all these people will refer to these incidents, these historical events every now and then. Then Hundred Year War, which began in 1337. University of Oxford, this is just for the sake of knowledge. University of Oxford in England and Cambridge were founded in 1167 and 1209 respectively. Do remember. Okay, University of Oxford in 1167, University of Cambridge 1209. These are the things that I have already mentioned in great detail in my history of literature classes, of which I have already given you the access. So you can go through these. Now, this feudalism was one of the kind of boon at that time, where you will find that this um, actually it's a kind of curse where the power shifts from low when you will go from lower to upper side of this triangle. So people in the lower part of the triangle, they have the less power, and people at the upper half, they have the more power. Okay. So king is at the top. Then we have royal or lords and other people who are very close to king. Okay, people with the titles such as Earl of Essex, Earl of Wessex. These people are there. Then we have knights and other people who give protection, and then we have the people who are merchant class, and then at the very bottom you will find the poor people. But even before king, there used to be god at the top of this. Okay, now this is something which the king were very skeptical. They wanted to place themselves even before god. This is what King Henry the Second also tried, but finally Henry the Eighth will succeed in this by passing the Act of Supremacy in 1534. He will succeed. He will take control of the church, which were earlier under the control of the Roman Catholic people. Okay, Roman Catholic Church and the Archbishop. They used to control. So they used to be at the top of the hierarchy. Then king. King have to follow the instruction of those archbishop who are recruited by this Roman Catholic Church. So king has to be also under someone, under God, you can say in that way. Henry II tried to get access of that, but he was not able to do so. It actually cultivated into a kind of backlash because he accidentally killed Thomas Becket. But Henry the Eighth, he will take the advantage of religious reformation which were happening in Europe, because you know that Martin Luther begins this religious reformation in Germany known as Protestantism. That Protestantism has been further followed by Switzerland, other part of and other European countries. So in Switzerland, that has been renamed as Calvinism. John Calvin began this reformation in Switzerland and other parts of Geneva. The same religious reformation has been also adopted by the people of Britain by Henry VIII, and he gave rise, or he gave a new name to a to a religious sect which were known as Anglicanism. Okay, he said that I am somehow going further apart from this Roman Catholic Church. I will not follow this Roman Catholic Church. Instead, I will make, following this religious reformation, I will make a new church of my own that will be known as Anglicanism. And there is a rift created between him as well as the Roman Catholic. So he denied he denied that he won't follow this Roman Catholic Church any longer. Now he took the wheel of this religious reformation. That because he want to do religious reformation, because the church is corrupt, that's why he's declared himself as the sovereign, or the as the king of church also, by drifting apart from this Roman Catholic Church and declaring himself as the king of the Anglicanism and Anglican Church. But his sole, motto was to control the church. That was his motto. Okay. So he was only using it as a kind of veil, as a kind of cover. He wanted to control church at the end of the day. And he succeeded in that. So religious reformation, as I have told you, started there in Germany by Martin Luther King. Okay. And then John Calvin followed it in Geneva in Switzerland, and a new form of Protestantism born in Geneva in Switzerland, which we known as Calvinism. Okay. Then in England, it has been further renamed as Anglicanism, one of the major branches of the 16th century Protestant Reformation, and a form of Christianity that includes both Protestantism and Roman Catholicism. He said that Roman Catholics are also welcome, Henry VIII said, because he wanted to just take over the control of the church. He has no, intention of doing any religious reformation. His Anglicanism would not be better than the Roman Catholics. Okay, so now after the death of Henry this eighth, what will happen that Edward the sixth, the son of Henry the eighth, he will become the king. He will also remain a Protestant because he will follow the Anglicanism established by his father. Act of supremacy is important, like I have said, 1534, Act of Supremacy. So he will try to follow his father's footsteps. But because he was a very sickly child, he will die within a couple of years. And then Mary will come to the throne. The same Mary whom you know as Bloody Mary. She will take control of everything, and she will start persecuting the people, executing the people who are associated with Anglicanism or Protestantism, because she was a strong Catholic. Yeah, again, I will go back to history to refer that Henry VIII married 6 times. Because he married 6 times, some of his wife were Protestant, other were Catholics. Now, Mary's mother was Catholic. Mary's mother, that is the wife of Henry VIII, she was Catholic. So Mary herself was very strong Catholic. When she come to the throne, she started to execute all the people who were associated with Anglican. Okay, can you please mute your camera, or is it happening? It's not. Hello. Yeah. So this feudalistic system has been somehow changed by Henry VIII, and there is this very famous philosophy uh, which you will find in also in the plays written by Shakespeare. This is a Renaissance philosophy that everything has been put in some order. Okay, there is an order prescribed to every human being in this feudal system. There is king at the top, then the church, then the royal family, then the knights, and then the poor people, something like that. So if you will change this hierarchy, whole scenario will be changed. Okay, this will lead to a kind of mayhem. Okay, if you will change this hierarchy, this will create a chaos. Now, to bring order out of that chaos, you have to again go back to the old feudalistic system. Only then you will be able to bring control to that mayhem or the chaos. Now, I will try to make you understand this by giving one example from Macbeth. Now, Macbeth was just an normal soldier. Okay, he was here in the hierarchy. But what he did, he killed the king in order to become a king. Okay, from a normal knight, he wanted to become a king. So, what he is doing, he is changing the hierarchy. Okay, the prescribed hierarchy. Because he changed the prescribed hierarchy by killing the king, this led to a chaos. This led to a devastation. Everyone was confused. Lots of people have been killed even after that. He killed his own friend. Okay. And that hierarchy has been again restored only after the murder of Macbeth and the coming of the um, sons of Duncan. Okay. Only after coming of the son of Duncan back to the throne, that hierarchy has been maintained, restored, and everything become peaceful after that. So see, that was the philosophy, that was the idea. Obviously, that such idea has been made only in order to propagate their idea, their notion of kingship. Okay, the idea of kingship, the idea of kingship in the hands of the powerful people. They have propagated this idea that you cannot change the hierarchy. Do not try to do so. Okay. So that was the case at that time. So yeah, I talked about this religious reformation. Now, while this religious reformation was happening, in the same time, you will find that John Wycliffe, he wrote, he attacks on the misuse of papal powers and revenue. He said that people are actually uh, dying, and these people are selling the pardon for the sins. The people from church, they are corrupt. This is what Chaucer will also say, if you remember. So he attacks on the misuse of papal powers and revenue, and his criticism of the sale of indulgence, the sale of pardon for the sins, okay, seems to have struck a sympathetic chord in many otherwise orthodox believers. Lots of orthodox believer goes with this idea of John Wycliffe that yes, this is actually happening. The church is becoming corrupt and corrupt more and more. So his English disciples, popularly known as Lollards, they actually started to follow it. They started this religious preaching in the true sense. Okay. So what do we mean by this Lollard? How this term came into being? So people who were uneducated at that time were known as Lollard. Okay, Lollard. Now this has been used for them, the follower of Wycliffe earlier, to ridicule them. But later, this became a kind of good term for them. They enjoyed it. That okay, we are Lollards. We are the follower of John Wycliffe. So sometimes said to be the father of English prose also, John Wycliffe, morning star of Reformation also. Do remember these terms. So he actually translated the text of the Latin Vulgate, okay, Latin Vulgate into English. He started this, although it remained incomplete. He died before that. But then he translated the Latin one. He said that why, if I don't understand Latin, Vulgate language, what is the point of reading that Bible? For instance, Quran is written in Arabic. If I don't know Arabic, so it's better to read in English translation rather than following Arabic scripture, isn't it? So same thing he said that when I'm not understanding something, why I will read it in Latin Vulgate? Let us translate it. Why you are not letting us to translate it into English? That was his concern. Later on, after Wycliffe's death, his followers, Nicholas of Hereford and John Purvey, they will complete that Bible. Okay, Nicholas of Hereford and John Purvey. They will complete the incomplete Bible written by John Wycliffe. Now, in this happened in 1382. This Bible that he started, John Wycliffe. Then who were the other pioneer translator of Bible? We have, first of all, we have this person, what is his name? Miles Coward. Okay, even before him, William Tyndale, his Bible came in 1525, known as New Testament. We have Old Testament and the New Testament. So, New Testament is the Bible, translated by William Tyndale. It is also known as Great Bible. I mean, the Great Bible was written by Miles Coverdale. So, Great Bible was a revision of this work of William Tyndale. Okay, so William Tyndale started the project of New Testament, translating this work. He went into exile in Germany in 1524 out of the fear of execution. Because at that time, kings and queens were very rigid. They don't want it to be translated. Also, the Roman Catholic Church created pressure. So William Tyndale ran into exile in Germany in 1524. He was influenced by Martin Luther's Reformation. That's why he started to translate. He was a follower of Luther. He translated Bible in English during 1524 to 1535. Okay, but he was executed at the end of the day in 1536. He was executed. Okay, he was murdered, burned on a stake. This is what Mary will do with other people also when once she will come back to the throne. So he was executed. Then the incomplete New Testament will be carried forward by Miles Coverdale. He will complete this New Testament in 1535. This is the first complete compilation. Do you remember? Miles Coverdale, his Bible is the first complete compilation. Before that, William Tyndale or Wycliffe's Bible were they remained incomplete. So, like most of his 16th century successors, Miles Coverdale also took over the already translated Bible by Tyndale for his edition. He added versions of um, other text. He took the reference from other text, also from the Martin Luther's text, and then he created this complete version of New Testament. Okay, and later you know what happened that after the death of Elizabeth, King James I and his bishop ordered that a revised translation of entire Bible will be undertaken by a group of 47 scholars. That version is known as authorized version, which was published in 1611, or also known as King James Bible. Okay, it was compiled by 47 scholars. Authorized version or King James Bible during. Even after King James Bible, there was further revision that you will see in the Bible. In 1952, a revised Bible has been published in 1952. And then in 2004, Holman's Standard Bible has been published. In 2004, Holman's Standard Bible has been published. This is a part of uh, Bible and its translation in a chronological order. I will come back to this 100-Year War, which happened in between 1337 and 1453, was an intermittent conflict between England and France lasting for almost 116 years. It began principally because of King Edward III and Philip VI escalated a dispute over feudal rights in Gascony to a battle for the French crown. The French eventually won and gained control of all the France except Calais. This is the incident which took place after that. Uh, yeah, so this is all about 100-Year War because they asked sometime in examination. That's why I'm giving you this reference. It happened between England and France. During this 100-Year War, Edward III, Richard II, Henry IV, they were all there during this time. And they were also at the time of, they were the king at the time of Chaucer. So remember the question has been asked in UG Senate that who were the three kings under which Chaucer was writing? So Edward III, Richard II, Henry IV. Okay, Edward III and Richard II they belong to Plantagenet dynasty. Henry IV, on the other hand, belong to Lancaster dynasty. Now this will be further clear when I will talk about the uh, this War of Roses. So yeah, the Hundred Year War that I have just referred, then peasant uprising, although it has been somehow subdued and suppressed by the authority, but this was the first full-scale revolt against the king. Okay, the reference you will find also in Canterbury Tales and Pierce and Clover. So people had hatred for corrupt church and nobles, John Wycliffe and William Langland. They will talk about this. Corruption was widespread in the church as well. John Wycliffe, the Morning Star of Reformation, and poets like Langland and Gower freely condemned the growing corruption in church and threw their teachings out to revive the real Christianity. Thus, the ideas of the Reformation were already becoming a force in the age of Chaucer. Okay, this was started by Martin Luther, spread in Geneva and Switzerland. Also, it actually led to a full-scale war in Spain between the Catholics and Protestantism, which has been further described by the famous playwright. What is his name? Who wrote Mother Courage and Her Children? Bertolt Brecht, isn't it? Yeah, Bertolt Brecht. So he actually talked about this incident of religious reformation. Do remember. So everything is connected to history. That's why put focus on history sometime, which obviously you will find boring, but then I find it fascinating. So yeah, Hundred Year War, Edward the Third, Richard the Second, Henry the Fourth. So both of these initial two kings belong to Plantagenet, and then Henry the Fourth belonged to Lancaster dynasty. Okay, because this has something to do with this War of Roses. Okay, War of Roses will happen between the two dynasty, York dynasty as well as Lancaster. So York dynasty has this badge of white roses, okay, and the Lancaster have the badge of red roses. This question has been asked in UGC NET. Do remember, War of Roses took place between the House of York and House of Lancaster. House of York, they used this badge white rose, and House of Lancaster used the symbol or the badge of red rose. Okay. Then Black Death, 1348, Peasant Revolt, 1381. John Wycliffe, translation of Bible into standard English, father of English prose, pamphlet in Latin against abuse of power. He wrote these things. Okay. Uh, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, we know that it's famous work, but it is anonymous. We don't know about the author. Then William Langland's vision of Pierce and Crowman, very famous work at that time. It's an allegory, but it talks about the contemporary. It has contemporary references also. So an allegory is a story or description. This is a part of literary device I'm teaching you. So an allegory is a story or description in which characters and events symbolize some deeper underlying meaning and serve to spread moral teaching. The famous example is Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. So Geoffrey Chaucer, the work of Chaucer, we divide generally into three phases. You are all aware of that. I'm just repeating those things. So first period is the French period, in which you will find works such as Romaunt of the Rose. It's a translation, and the Book of the Duchess. Romaunt of the Rose is a translation written in octosyllabic couplet. Okay, the Book of the Duchess was written around 1370. It's also a French original work, kind of. Romaunt of the Roses is a translation which has been written by Guillaume de Loris and later completed by Jean Dumeux. Okay, Jean Dumeux. Both of them wrote this. It has been translated in English by Chaucer. The second period is that of Latin phase. Now, in the Latin phase, we have such works such as Troilus and Cresside. Okay, the source of Troilus and Cresside is Boccaccio's Il Filostretto. Okay, Il Filostretto, Boccaccio's Il Filostretto. Okay, which will be roughly translated into English as the love is stricken. Love is stricken. Okay, so the source of Troilus and Cresside was Boccaccio's Il Filostretto. Now, the rhyme scheme that has been used in this poem was rhyme royal stanza. This is important. This question has been asked in UGC. It was rhyme royal stanza and it was dedicated to John Gower. John Gower, his contemporary. Other writing of this phase, this Latin phase, was the Parliament of Fowls, the House of Fame, the Legend of Goodwill. The Parliament of Fowls, the House of Fame, the Legend of Goodwill. Now, the Book of Duchess, which was written in the earlier French phase, it's an elegy in the form of dream vision commemorating John of Gaunt's first wife, the young Duchess of Lancaster, who died in 1386. It's a kind of elegy on the death of the wife of John of Gaunt because he was one of the fellow under John of Gaunt, working under John of Gaunt. So the Book of Duchess, the Book of Duchess was written in Ottavari. Now, when we read Chaucer, one thing which is important is that the rhyme scheme used by him, as I've already told you, that he used for the first time heroic couplet in the Legend of Good Women, rhyme royal in Troilus and Cresside, and Ottawa Rima in the Book of the Duchess. This is important. Heroic couplet in the Legend of Good Women, Chaucer used for the first time heroic couplet in the Legend of Good Women, rhyme royal in Troilus and Cresside, and Ottawa Rima in the Book of the Duchess. Ottawa Rima in the Book of the Duchess. We obviously are more concerned about this work, Canterbury Tales. So, under the influence of French, he wrote the very famous work, the Book of the Duchess. Then, under the influence of Italian literature, Latin, Troilus and Cresside, and then Canterbury Tales. The prologue is written in heroic couplet. There is a caesura, which is also a Middle East English. I mean, the device used frequently in the Middle English period. Description, humor, these are the things that you will find. These are the meters that has been used. So these are the three pages. Canterbury Tales is an unfinished work extending to 17,000 lines almost in prose and verse of various meters. Through the predominant meter was always rhyming couplet, but there are various meters apart from that. So the general prologue describes the meeting of 29 pilgrims in the Tabardine in Southwark. Okay, detailed pen picture are given of 21 of them. Out of 29 pilgrims, the detailed pen picture are given of 21 of them. Only 23 pilgrims tell stories, and there are only 24 stories in total. The initial plan was to write around 120 stories, but there are only 24 stories. Even in that, some of the stories are incomplete. Chaucer, as a pilgrim, he tells the two stories, and both of them, I guess, remain incomplete. So we have Knight's Tale, Miller's Tale, Reeve's Tale, Cook's Tale, Man of Law's Tale, the Wife of Bath, the Friar, the Summoner, the Clerk. These are all the characters in the story. So I'm again repeating it. The work extended to 17,000 lines in prose and verse, though the predominant form in was the rhyming couplet. General prologue described the meeting of 29 pilgrims in the Tabardine, but there is detailed pen picture of 21 of them. Only 23 pilgrims tell the stories, and there are 24 stories in total. Now, when you are reading Canterbury Tales, few of the important things that were happening in the. I mean, I won't go in detail in all these stories. Okay, I won't be discussing all these stories one by one that you have obviously read several times. So I will tell you some of the quick fact kind of. So, and this question has been asked in UGC NET. So, according to wife of Bath, women desire the most. What women desire the most? Tell me. You tell me. These are the simple questions. According to wife of Bath, women desire the most. What do they desire the most? It's sovereignty, isn't it? Yeah, sovereignty. Yeah, good. There is this very famous line I'm quoting. Uh, who used this? I mean, in which character's story Chaucer used these words? So I'm quoting now. Of remedies of love she knew perchance. Of remedies of love she knew perchance. She knew perchance. In whose story Chaucer mentions. Yes. Chastity. Of remedies of love she knew
I think
perchance.
sovereignty.
Perchance. This is the line. Of remedies of love she knew perchance. This has been used for one women character, female character. Yeah, wife of Bath. Exactly. Good. Wife of Bath. Emmeline is a character you know in the Knight's Tale. She marries which character? She marries whom? Emmeline. Palamon. Exactly. Yeah, very good. Very good. What is the name of the prioress? Name of the prioress? Madam Eglinton. Very good. Number of edition of Canterbury Tales printed by Caxton Press,
Can
William
you repeat
Caxton's
again?
Press. How many number of edition of Canterbury Tales has been published by Caxton Press? It's two. Okay, two edition has been published by Caxton
Yes.
Press.
Wife of Bath.
Now, tale that was influenced by the Beast fable, Reynard and the Fox. Okay, which tale was influenced by the Beast fable, Reynard the Fox? Tell me. Nun's Priest.
Palamon.
Yeah. Good. Very good. It was influenced by Beast fable, Reynard the Fox. Tale that qualifies as the medieval sermon.
Eglantines.
Which tale qualifies as the medieval sermon? Whose tale? Who told a tale in the Canterbury Tales which qualifies as the medieval sermon? It's Pardoner. Okay, Pardoner. His tale qualifies as the medieval sermon. These are the questions that has been asked already. Okay. So there are good guys. Good guys are knight, parson, clerk, plowman. Okay. Then we have clergymen. Clergymen. Who were the clergymen? Prioress, parson, monk, friar, pardoner.
Nun's priest tale.
Okay. These were the clergymen. Prioress, parson, friar, monk, pardoner. Good guys were knight, parson, clerk, plowman. Canterbury Tales was influenced by whose word? And what is the name of that word? Ah, whose Decameron? Boccaccio's Deca. Yeah. What happened in Boccaccio's Decameron? There were 10 people on a journey of 10 days. Each will tell one story per day. This is what somehow has been followed by Chaucer also for Canterbury Tales. So frame story technique has been used, as I have already told you. Whose prologue to her tale? I have told you the answer already by saying her. So the prologue to her tale is larger than the tale itself. Who is the character? The prologue to her tale is larger than the tale itself. She has been caricatured as larger than life.
Dante's Decameron.
The prologue is larger than the tale itself.
Dan-
Who is she?
Boccaccio Decameron.
Wife of Bath. Okay. Her prologue is larger than the tale itself. Do remember. There are two complete tales and two fragments. Total 24 tales. Plowman and Parson. What kind of relationship they share in the story? Plowman and Parson. They were brothers. Brothers, yes. The Knight's Tale influenced one of the work of Shakespeare. What is the name of that work? Knight's Tale has influenced one of the work written by Shakespeare. What is the name of that work? Quickly. Okay, it has. I'm giving you the hint. Kinsman. It has something like kinsman in the title. Shakespeare's one of the play written by Shakespeare is influenced by Knight's Tale. The title of Shakespeare work poses a word kinsman. Now tell me, it's quite easy. I've given you the answer. Two noble kinsmen. Exactly. Because I just now told you that Chaucer used heroic couplet for the first time in which work? Tell me the name of the work. Heroic couplet in which work for the first time?
I can remember this story, but no, actually the name.
Exactly. Rhyme Royal stanza. In which work he used this for the first time? Rhyme Royal. Toilets and Cresside. Exactly. Very good. Ottawa Rima. The Book of the Duchess. Very good. So, Legend of Good Women and Toilets and Cresside falls under the category of Latin period, and the Book of the Duchess falls under the category of French. So, it's not that for the first time he wrote Canterbury Tales in heroic couplet. Do not remember like that.
The two noble kinsmen.
Now, the Legend of Good Women written by Chaucer was written in heroic couplet. You know that. Tennyson wrote one of his poems based upon this poem. What is the name of that poem? The Victorian poet Tennyson wrote one of the poems based upon the poem The Legend of Good Women.
The Legend of Good Woman.
Give me the name of that poem written by Tennyson. Oh.
Trials and Cresside.
The Book of the Duchess.
The Book of Duchess.
The name of the poem written by Tennyson was A Dream of Fair Women. A Dream of Fair Women. This was based on The Legend of Good Women written by Chaucer. Okay? A Dream of Fair Women. The wife of Bath's tale. The source of wife of Bath's tale is which one? The source of wife of Bath's tale. And do remember that wife of Bath's tale is anti-courtly romance. Anti-courtly romance. It's not a very sophisticated kind of romance. Anti-courtly romance. So the source of this tale is which one? It's Roman de la Rose. Okay, Roman de la Rose. This is about War of the Roses. I hope you have seen. Mhm. I will come back to his contemporaries. No, before I come back to his contemporaries, I will tell you that the knight, then the prioress, these are all the positive character I'm naming. The knight, the prioress, then the clerk of Oxford, then we have the parson, the plowman. Uh, these are all the positive kind of character. Okay, they were not corrupt. Almost all the other characters and their tales are very corrupt. So, who has this love for gold? Which character in Canterbury Tales has this love for gold? Which has been mentioned in the prologue, love for gold. Physician, exactly. Very good. What is the name of sheep in Shipman's Tale? What is the name of sheep in the Shipman's Tale? Magdalene Rascal, no? Magdalene Rascal is the name of the sheep in Shipman's Tale. Do you remember the summoner's face is full of pimple? He has red face. Okay, this is the physique of summoner. So pimple with red face with pimple. Okay. What is the name of wife of Bath? It has been mentioned. Alison, exactly. Yeah, yeah, very good. So, which tale has been written in prose in
Physician.
Canterbury
He's
Tales?
physician.
Mm-hmm. A Tale of Melibea.
Monk and merchant.
You remember that parson? He's a positive character. He talks about the seven deadly sins. This becomes sometime important because you will find the reference of
Yes.
seven deadly
Macbeth
sins in
Rascal,
almost
yes.
all the medieval play as well as in the play of Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus. So seven deadly sins. He referred to that. All right. So yeah, I was talking about the contemporaries of Chaucer. I will talk about these people now.
Alison.
Allison and Yankee was his husband.
So we have uh, John Lydgate. Sorry, even before that, John Gower. Okay. So John Gower is famous for his translation. This question has been asked in UGC NET.
Sure.
John Gower wrote Confessio Amantis, Speculum Meditantis, and Vox Clementis. Now, Confessio Amantis is written in English, Speculum Meditantis is written in French, and Vox Clementis is written in Latin. This is important. Question has been asked from this. Confessio Amantis, written in English, was published by Caxton Press in 1483. Okay. John Gower is particularly known for these three works on Confessio Amantis, Speculum Meditantis, Vox Clementis. Confessio Amantis is in English, Speculum Meditantis is in French, then we have Vox Clementis in Latin. Then William Langland wrote The Vision of Peers and Plowmen. You can always refer to world literature in your feast to read his work, Peers and Plowmen. Then I told you about John Wycliffe already. Now there are a few people which are of importance. Yeah, English Chaucerian. Who were the English Chaucerian? The follower of Chaucer are known as Chaucerian. So English Chaucerian were John Lydgate, Thomas Occleve, John Skelton, Stephen House, Alexander Barclay. Okay, these were the English Chaucerian. Now, questions from English Chaucerian has not been asked as many times, but Scottish Chaucerians are more important than them. So, who were the Scottish Chaucerian? John Barbour, Gavin Douglas, Robert Henryson, and William Dunn. Okay, Scottish Chaucerian. They belong to the Kingdom of Scotland, but they followed Chaucer and praise him for his work. So, John Barbour is famous for his work, The Brews. John Barbour wrote this work, The Brews. Okay, The Brews was written by John Barbour. Then we have educated poets such as Gavin Douglas, Robert Henderson, and William Dunbar. They were educated. Okay, they have artist university life and all. So Gavin Douglas, uh, he actually wrote, he translated Virgil's Aeneid. Gavin Douglas translated Virgil's Aeneid. Okay, and he wrote a work known as the Palace of Honor. The Palace, Palice, Palace of Honor. The Palace of Honor. Okay, these are the works written by Gavin Douglas. He translated Virgil's Aeneid and he wrote The Palace of Honor. Then we have Robert Henryson. Robert Henryson is famous for his work Moral Fabilis. Moral, Moral, Fabilis. Moral Fabilis. Robert Henryson is famous for his work Moral Fabilis and The Testament of Cresside. Robert Henderson wrote this work, The Testament of Cresside, which is a kind of sequel to Chaucer's work, Troilus and Cresside. He says that the Testament of Cresside is actually the sequel to Chaucer's work, Troilus and Cresside. Robert Henderson. Then we have William Dunbar, again a very famous and important poet of Scottish Chaucerian. Um, his work Golden Targe is very famous. William Dunbar is known for Golden Taj, in which he looked to three writers. In the work Golden Taj, Targe, Taj, he looked to three writers. Who were these three writers? Chaucer, Gower, and Lydgate. Chaucer, John Gower, and John Lydgate. Golden Taj, written by John Dunbar. He looked to three authors, three writers, Chaucer, Gower, and Lydgate. He also wrote this work, Lament for the Makers. Yeah, about this printing press. For that, I will talk about the English Chaucerian. So, John Lydgate in English Chaucerian, his time span is from 1370 to 1449. He is famous for few important works. For instance, the Troy book. Okay, the Troy book written by John Lydgate. Then the Siege of Thebes, the Fall of Princes, the Complaint of the Black Knight, the Temple of Glass. These are all the works written by John Lydgate. Okay. Troy book. First one is Troy book. Second is the Siege of Thebes. Siege of Thebes. Then the Fall of Princes. The Fall of Princes. The Complaint of the Black Knight. The Complaint of the Black Knight. The Temple of Glass. The Temple of Glass. Do remember these works. Okay, just the title will do the job. Then we have Thomas Occleve. Thomas Occleve wrote this work, The Regiment of Princes. He is famous for this single work, Regiment of Princes. This is one of the important works written by Thomas Occleve. Regiment of Princes. Yeah, Regiment of Princes. He also praises Chaucer in this work, The Regiment of Princes. It was written for future King Henry the Fifth. Okay, it was written for the future King Henry the Fifth. Then the next author associated with English Chaucerian is John Skelton. John Skelton. These are all the factual information that I am giving you. Uh, so he was the tutor of Henry the Eighth. John Skelton is important because he was the tutor of Henry the Eighth. Okay, he wrote this work, Philip Sparrow. Philip Sparrow. Then the Garland. The Garland. The other title of the Garland is Chaplet of Laurel. Okay, the Garland or the Chaplet of Laurel. Then Speak Parrot, Colin Cloud. Remember, Colin Cloud is a character in Spencer. So this Colin Cloud is a character which has been made by John Skelton for the first time. Colin Cloud. He actually attacked Woolsey. Woolsey, Wolsey. He was one of the person on authoritative position. So he attacks Woolsey. It was a satire on Woolsey. Speak Parrot was also a kind of satire on Woolsey. So he satired Woolsey for twice in his work, Speak Parrot and Calling Cloud. Speak Parrot, Calling Cloud. So Philip Sparrow, The Garland or Chaplet of Laurel, then Speak Parrot, Calling Cloud. These are all the important works by John Skelton. But we know him especially for one of this only surviving play written by him, that is Magnificence. Okay, Magnificence. Only surviving play by John Skelton, Magnificence. Apart from him, like Stephen House and Alexander Barclay, these are all the minor writers. Yeah, so printing press, we have woodblock printing initially, then Johannes Gutenberg press started in 1450, then Caxton press, which was started in England in 1476. First book to be published by Caxton press was The History of Troy. In 1477, Caxton brought over his press to England, set it up in Westminster. Lee Mott, the author, printed and published in 1485. First book was The History of Troy. Then Mott, the author, was published in 1485 in 21 books. Do remember. Afterwards, you will find Canterbury Tales, the edition of two editions of Canterbury Tales. This is about religious reformation. This you will find in that lecture, the historical one that I've given. Now, during this late medieval period, when Chaucer, Gower, then Wycliffe, they were writing, the drama was getting popularity. Okay, so we have morality play, mystery play, miracle play, isn't it? We'll find those plays where they are at that time. Okay, so I'm telling you some of the names which were important, which are concerned with the medieval drama. So Everyman is a play, anonymous play. We don't know about the author. It was a part of morality play, in which you will find there are several characters such as kindred, cousin, goods. Okay, these are all the characters, allegorical kind of play. So Everyman is one of the very important play which talks about the seven deadly sins also. Okay. Then the next important play is Mankind. Again, anonymous. Mankind. Mankind, Everyman, The Castle of Preservance. Again, The Castle of Preservance, we don't know about the author. These are all the important morality plays written during the medieval time. Everyman, Mankind, The Castle of Preservance. Now, mystery and miracle play, you know that these plays were based on biblical stories. And morality play will actually talk about the seven deadly sins, how to live a life, something like that. Okay. And mystery and miracle plays were based on biblical stories. Yeah, so with that, we are almost done with this medieval time, the age of Chaucer. These are all the important things that you need to know. We will begin with almost 16th century, 15th, last half of this 15th century, 16th century, sorry. We'll begin with 16th century onwards from the next class, in which I will be talking about Maud the author, written by Thomas Mallory, then the Erasmus, Thomas More, Sir Thomas Eliot, Roger Ascham, Thomas Cranmer. Um, yeah, these are the authors that I will be covering before I will go to the Elizabethan age itself.